Hello everyone and welcome to a truly spectacular game from round 7 of this year's FIDE Chess Olympiad. It is Wesley versus Hrant Melkumyan, board 2 of the match, United States versus Armenia, and it is a game that could very well decide the fate of the entire Olympiad, or it might not, but it very well could. I don't want to spoil anything about the game as it's completely out of this world. You guys will enjoy it. Let's dive straight into it. Wesley has the white pieces and he opens with e4. Melkumyan decides to play c6. He goes for the Caro-Kann defense, and already a slight deviation by Wesley. He doesn't go for the main line d4. He goes for knight to c3. To give you an example of how often this is played, for example, d4 is there are over 100,000 games rated games in the database with this move, and regarding knight to c3 there are around a bit more than 10,000. So d4 pretty much everyone plays, so it's already a slight surprise. We have d5 by Melkumyan, knight to f3 and bishop to g4, pinning Wesley's knight. We have h3. Wesley says, alright, what are your plans with the bishop? Are you going to move it to h5 or are you going to capture it? My knight on f3. So here Melkumyan captures, we have queen captures, and now pawn to e6. You've traded off your light square bishop, and of course now you put your pawns on light squares. That's a standard plan. We have bishop to e2 and bishop to c5 now. We have castles by Wesley and knight to d7. And here the most common moves are queen to g3, just going for that g7 pawn, and also b4 is a well-known move, just attacking the bishop. And if the bishop captures, then of course the rook to b1, you go after the, not of course the b8 square, but the b7 pawn, and usually you don't capture on b4. But here Wesley goes for the immediate e captures on d4. It's not new, it has been played before. C captures on d5, and now rook to d1. Now preparing this d4 push, we have knight g to f6 and now pawn to d4. And here there is a game that reached this exact same position. It was played in Croatia, here in my country. It was played in the Croatian Cup this year between Jurica Srbic and Robert Zelčić, where bishop to d6 was played, and that game ended in a draw. However, here we have bishop to e7, and it is now as of move 10 that we have a completely new game. So what happens now? Okay, Wesley plays bishop to d3. The bishop will very nicely be attacking the king side. You are expecting the black king to castle king side. Plus also the rook will return to e1, so you don't want your own light square bishop blocking it. We have castles here, and now bishop to f4. Just nicely continuing development. And here Melkumyan said, alright, you're wasting your time improving the position of your pieces. I'm going to do the same. And he goes knight back to b8. He wants to shift the knight over to c6. So knight to e2, Wesley says, alright, I'm gonna waste even more time to solidify my position. Knight to c6, and now pawn to c3, adding another defender to this pawn on d4. Rook to e8, and now rook back to e1, and now pawn to g6. So just, improving the position a little by little. Knight to g3 by Wesley. It's not much, but already you kind of do have 4 attackers in front of the black king, maybe even 5 if you consider rook on e1 an attacker. I consider rook on e1 an attacker because it can very easily be shifted into the attack if the position calls for it. So here knight to d7, now preparing this e5 move, and if you can execute e5 here with black, you will be completely fine here. So Wesley goes for rook to e3, a nice rook lift. Now the other rook can come to e1, and now we have pawn to e5, and this is where a game gets really exciting and where the game really explodes. Wesley plays a bishop to h6. And this is just incredible. Wesley is inviting pawn to e4, and what is this? It could be that Wesley completely missed this, which would be very odd as he is Wesley world chess 960 champion. But on the other hand, if it's not a blunder, what is it? What is Wesley planning here? So here e4 was played, and e4 for Melkumyan completely blunders the game. But we can't really blame him, because what he missed here is completely out of this world. Here Wesley plays a rook captures on e4, and now that you see it, you of course believe it. And now what is rook to e4? Well, the point of rook to e4 is I don't know if I even should say it, but the point is that if you capture it, then comes I'm not even going to tell you what comes. Feel free to pause the video here and try to find the move that Wesley had in mind while I give you a couple of seconds. So for those of you who were able to do it, congratulations on spotting this absolute brilliancy. And for those of you who just want to enjoy the show, it is queen captures on f7. This move is so wild, we are going to watch it one more time in slow motion. Look at this, queen captures on f7. And now you don't have a move. If you move the king, bishop g7 or queen g7 is checkmate. And if you accept the queen sacrifice, then bishop to c4 check, and that's it. Look at the bishop pair from hell. There is nowhere for the king to go to but forward. King f6, now comes knight captures on e4 with check. Only move king f5, now comes g4 with check, sacrificing the knight after the queen. And after king captures on e4, now comes rook to e1 check, king to f3, and now the spectacular bishop to d5 checkmate. Look at this, bishop slicing this way, bishop slicing this way. I mean, this is that you simply don't see this very often in top level chess in 2022, you know, especially in an elite tournament like the Olympiad. So what you can do here is just resign the game, or you can maybe try to mix it up a little bit. So here Melkumyan of course decided to mix it up. He saw that it is impossible to capture the rook, otherwise just queen sacrifice and checkmate. So he played knight to f8, but now he's just down a pawn, and it's way too easy for Wesley to organize a very powerful attack. So rook to f4, going after the f7 pawn. We have pawn to f5, but now Wesley doesn't even give a moment's rest for Melkumyan to, you know, recuperate his forces. He just goes knight captures on f5. So he not counting anything, not going for material, just, you know, playing a brilliant game. G captures on f5, rook captures on f5, giving up the piece for some pawns here. Now rook captures on d5 is also coming. So queen to d6, putting pressure on the dark square bishop here, but now queen g4 check, knight to g6, and now of course rook captures on d5. Now the queen cannot capture the rook. We have queen has to move, so queen to f6, now hoping to get queen to h4 in and maybe trade queens, but Wesley just plays g4. He says, I'm not letting you off the hook at all. Bishop to f8, offering a trade of bishops, and now rook to f5, attacking the queen. Queen to e7, and now finally the bishop assumes the diagonal that it was always meant to assume. Bishop c4 check, king to h8, and bishop g5, and it was in this position on move 28 that Hrant Melkumyan resigned the game, as there is nothing more to be done here. Such a spectacular game. The point is, after the queen moves, for example queen to d6 or wherever, you can just play, not that obviously, you can play rook f6, attack the queen, and once the queen moves again, because there really aren't all that many squares for the queen, now comes rook f7, and once the queen moves again, rook captures on h7. This is one way to checkmate the black king. King captures, queen h5 check, king g7, and now queen to h6 will be checkmate. So that's one way to do it, but pretty much whatever else you play just loses the game on the spot. So this is truly a remarkable game by Wesley So, the World Fisher Random champion. But what I find even more interesting about this game is that I don't think this came as preparation. I think this came, you know, just from Wesley's, spectacular control over any position. Because here, after this bishop to h6 move was played, e4 is good for black. Or rather, e4 isn't good for black right away, but it is good for black if you throw in a certain move. And there is a certain move that Melkumyan could have played here that would make things very difficult for Wesley, and that move is bishop to f8. It's a move that you will not find over the board, much like Melkumyan did not find, even in a classical game. But just to show you guys, bishop to f8, and now all of the tactics that worked in the game no longer work. Because now, once you capture on f8, now we just play e4. That's the whole point. And now it doesn't matter what you play. One option is to just continue attacking. Knight captures on e4, and now after pawn captures, we're going to play knight captures. First bishop captures on e4, knight captures on f8, and now rook 8 to e1. And the Wesley would have some very nice compensation for the sacrificed piece. He would have 7 pawns, Melkumyan would have 5 pawns, but still, with perfect play, or even with decent play, black should not have any problems here. And another thing you could do after e4 is play queen back to d1. If you don't want to sacrifice any pieces, then we just trade, rook captures on f8, you move your bishop that's under attack, and now for example f5, but still with this beautiful expansion, black should be better for the rest of the game. So after Wesley's bishop to h6, I consider it a brilliancy, because bishop to f8 is a move you simply do not find over the board. as was the case here. But after that, after going for e4, then the game just explodes. Oh, of course, and like I said, you cannot blame Melkumyan. I mean, who would think that the queen captures on f7 is the idea? I mean, not right away, but obviously after rook captures on e4, if you accept queen captures on f7, the game just falls apart. It's we have to see it one more time. Bishop c4 check, king f6, knight captures, king f5, knight sacrifice, king captures, and now of course rook e1 f3 and bishop d5 checkmate. We are going to end the video with this position, as it's just I'm very happy that I was around to see this game. That's the game. Hope you guys enjoyed it. After this game, board 1 completely exploded as Sargsyan realized that he has to go and play for a win against Fabiano Caruana, so we'll see what happens on the other boards. But as Wesley won his game extremely quickly, the other boards had to play much more aggressive against the other members of the United States, so we'll see what happened there as well. Once again, really hope you guys enjoyed this spectacular queen sacrifice by the World Fisher Random Champion. I would like to thank Derek King, Felix Dafo, Christian Whataboutums, Casey Vance, and Braxton Reynolds for a contribution to my channel. Thank you a lot, really appreciate it. As usual, you can check 2 of my previous videos here. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you soon, continuing the coverage of the Olympiad until it finishes. So thank you all, I will see you soon, and have an excellent rest of your day.